This is the Elizabeth School District Board of Directors meeting, Monday, February 13th, 2023, business session. And it is 6:01 p.m. and I call this meeting to order. All right. And before I get to roll call, it appears that we have multiple community members that are requesting public comment, which is awesome. To accommodate these requests, we will extend the sign up to 10 after 6. Once your comment card is completed, please hand them to Mr. Mike Newton in the back if you haven't already. He's standing in the back of the room. So can I get a roll call, please?
Director Baca.
Here.
Director Booth. Here. Director Frumfeller. Here. Director Karcher.
Here.
Director Olson. Here.
All right, thank you. And today we have Carly Schultes from Elizabeth Middle School, 7th grade, who's going to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, before we get started again, we are going to do something a little bit different. So we have the opportunity to all of you to ask questions or make comments. And if you're asking a question, we want to be able to respond to you appropriately. So we're going to, as you get up to make your comment or you state your question, we're going to take that back and prepare and answer you on the website. And we're going to set it up where you can see all the questions that are asked and then all the answers to those questions. So we can kind of keep running story, if you will, of the questions that are coming up, and if you check it out, there might be some questions already answered. So we're doing that to make it a little bit more efficient too at the board meeting. We want people to make their comments in the board meetings, and so specifically the business session. So that's what we're going to do to kind of streamline that process and ensure everybody gets a response. I know that was a concern or an issue in a recent meeting, so we wanted to make sure that that's addressed. All right, so can I get a motion for the amended agenda to add 8.1 board member comment and communication, item 7.4 board president update?
So moved.
Second.
All right, roll call, please.
Director Blackham.
Aye.
Director Booth. Director Frumfeller. Yes. Director Karcher.
Aye.
Director Olson. Aye.
Okay, at this time, can I get a motion for the approval of the minutes from Board of Education meeting January 23rd, 2023?
So moved. Second.
Okay, roll call, please.
Director Blackham.
Aye.
Director Booth. Aye. Director Frumfeller. Yes. Director Karcher.
Aye.
Director Olson. Aye.
All right, can I get a motion for the approval of minutes from the special Board of Education meeting February 2nd, 2023?
So moved. Second.
Roll call, please.
Director Blackham.
Aye.
Director Booth. Aye. Director Frumfeller. Yes. Director Karcher.
Aye.
Director Olson. Aye.
All right, we're going to move on to recognitions, and please help me in welcoming the Interim Chief Jeff Engel and Corporal Jason Rogers from the Elizabeth Police Department. If you two would come up to where are we going to have them come up in front?
Yeah.
Okay. And this is for the police department to accept a certificate of appreciation for School Resource Officer Appreciation on behalf of Officer Cameron Sage and Officer Stephen Herbal for SRO appreciation. All right.
All of those you can get this time back. Since they're not here, certificates. So thank you for what you guys do. We appreciate it. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
All right, we're going to move on to communications, on the communications section. So let's welcome the Elizabeth High School Principal Brett McClendon and community member Dave Eddy, please, to the microphone.
Good evening. Thank you for allowing me to speak about Elizabeth High School. It's kind of hard to believe that this is my 8th year in the district. Craig, I know you're smiling. You know, I've worked with you for quite a while, and I'm going to say this, that we are doing more for our kids at Elizabeth High School than we ever have. And I can say that after having been here for 8 years. Just a few things. We have our second National Merit semifinalist, who hopefully will be a finalist. We should know that later this month. We've had 2 Betcher scholars in the last 8 years. We had a Betcher semifinalist this year. Can't leave out gymnastics. You know, they won 4 state championships in a row. So there are a lot of great things happening. Yes, absolutely. But I want to point out a few of the new things that we're doing and some things that not a lot of people may know about. This is our first year for a fully certified CNA program. We're going to have kids that can graduate from high school, actually maybe not even graduate, as a junior, come out, get a CNA certificate, and go to work in a clinic and make a good living doing that. We have our auto program, which I know we've talked about a little bit. First year of that, we have got over 140 kids in Auto 1. We've expanded our certification programs. You know, in the past we had done Adobe, we had done Microsoft, but this year we've expanded into Riverwatch. We have a culinary certificate, as well as CNA, cybersecurity, and just adding to that, the ones we used last year, we got over $50,000 for the district that we are able to put back into the programs that are really benefiting our kids. A lot of this work started basically 3 years ago. And before I go on to some of our expanded opportunities and things that we're looking at growing in the future, I want to introduce Dave Eddy. Dave works for Boeing. I'll let him do the official title. But a lot of the things that we're doing right now to prepare kids for what they're going to face when they graduate started with Dave and his ideas, and then he got us going, and the wonderful staff at Elizabeth High School took off and ran with it. And I'm the one talking, but it's the staff. We have a wonderful staff, and I'll summarize all of that in a little bit. But first, I'd like to introduce Dave so he can talk about how we got this going and a little bit of the impetus, and then I'll kind of tie things up since it looks like it's going to be a long night.
Thank you, Brett. I know most of you. It's been quite a while since I've had a chance to talk to you. But yeah, I think a little bit about me and maybe why, as a community member, I thought it was worth the time to help the school district in a way that I thought would be transformational. I've been married for 40 years to Brooks. We have 10 children, 5 of which graduated from Elizabeth High School, the last one in 2021. We moved to Colorado up in Spring Valley in 2010. As Brett said, I work for the Boeing company. I'm in charge of Colorado from on the defense side. So I have all the facilities here, all the DoD satellite programs, as well as proprietary, about 450 engineers. And so that's my full-time job. I currently sit on 6 executive boards in the state on nonprofits. My favorite is Colorado Succeeds, which is a educational nonprofit that is dedicated to the pre-K through 12 improvement of student curriculum for the state of Colorado. They're very active at the legislative level, as well as some of the programs that Brett referred to, particularly HTI. So, as Brett alluded, about 4 years ago, the HTI program was rolled out with a letter of interest request. And at that time, Superintendent Bissonnette reached out to him and said, hey, this is something right up your guys' alley. It's intended for rural school districts, and they're talking about making transformational changes to high school. So Douglas said, yeah, let's put in a letter, and long story short, Elizabeth High School was selected along with the other 7 rural school districts in all 4 corners of the state of Colorado. And at that time, we needed to bring this to the staff and you guys as well back then. And it also provided an opportunity, I think, for a program to be implemented from the grassroots. And what I mean by that is it wasn't a superintendent directive. We've all seen many programs that the superintendent will come and say, district, you guys are going to do this, and what do you get? You get some of the staff members saying, I don't know, that may not seem right. But this was unlike that. So we started out with the staff. I met with them in the cafetorium over there, and I basically told them that, in my opinion, I thought you had a college prep high school. 56% of your kids were going on to some sort of post-secondary. We know in the state of Colorado only 27% complete any sort of post-secondary, and that's within 6 years. And so what are we doing with the other 45? Where's the 100% equity education in the Elizabeth School District? 45%, that's almost half your kids sitting in class that are a don't care case, right? Because they're not going to go to college. So what do they come to school looking forward to? Well, I thought HTI might provide that opportunity. I guess the other thing that really stands out to me is that in the 186 school districts in the state of Colorado, and I've been to all 4 corners, and I'm heavily involved still in DPS and some of the other Aurora school districts, the staff that you guys have and the administration that you have is one that when they look at opportunities to come up and provide kids a different way of learning, along with additional opportunities for vocation, not every school district does that. It takes extra work. They have full-time jobs, as I'm sure all of you know, with all the things that happen on a daily basis at the high school, middle school, and both elementaries. And so that's a full-time job. Now, to come and ask them to, let's add a CNA program, let's add an auto program, let's add concurrent enrollment. That's extra work on top of what they already have to do. And so they are unlike most of the school districts in the state. There are a few exemplars. Some of you visited Canyon City, right? That's an exemplar. But that's 1 out of 186. And there are other school districts around that are doing amazing things. I'm not trying to say that there aren't. But the fact that this district was able to embrace it and begin coming up with the graduate profile, which you see on every single school in the district. What does that mean? What do kids look at? What are they trying to pull out of that? Well, it takes that extra work by your staff, as well as you guys, and the superintendent, that are willing to carry that message and say, yeah, you're worth it. We're going to provide extra programs for you and opportunities. Just a little bit about HCI from an after-the-fact standpoint. The 8 schools that participated in that, they had a certificate and certification opportunities in which over 500 businesses across the state participated. Now you're talking about school districts up in the Grands. How many businesses are up in the Grands during the wintertime? Skiers, that type of thing. Down in Montrose, another school district down there. So these were rural school districts that didn't have a whole lot of resources and money, but they were willing to take the chance to change the curriculum for their students. I watched the meeting last month on television, and I was encouraged that every one of you, during your 5-minute segment, said that your number 1 priority is the students. That is fantastic. Because again, not all school districts are like that. The other thing I'll tell you is that there are a lot of opportunities that if you're not really watching closely at the state level, then you guys don't have like a St. Vrain, right? St. Vrain brings in over $10 million a year because they have 2 full-time grant writers. They have staff that are out and seeing all the programs that are coming. Little rural school districts don't have those resources and that person to dedicate to that. So sometimes they'll get missed. Last summer I participated on the 1330 Commission, which I was on the workforce and student success subcommittees, and then Governor Polis asked me to be on the 1350 steering committee. So what that's resulted in is the Opportunity Now grant. So it's one-time federal money. We're going to figure out how to award $86 million that has to be spent by 2026 to a variety of organizations that are partners with school districts. But the number one requirement is industry has to be a piece of that. Because when you get industry to participate in the community, then things happen, right? We've seen that here. So was kind of shocked to represent industry when Governor Polis reached out, but at the same time, we've had over 400 letters of interest, and the grants will go out as early as June. 3 categories: scales up to $12 million, planning's up to $1 million, and then these seed ideas are $50,000. So the idea in every single corner of the state has to be represented. That's one thing that's also a requirement of that particular grant thing. Let's see. 1 or 2 other things, and then I'll turn it back over to Brett. We have a couple new opportunities that I've talked with Brett about that we're going to meet later this week. One is the construction consortium. So you have a number of construction companies up in the Denver area that sponsor and provide resources to school districts so that we can get a construction certificate and program up and running here. Obviously, resources are key to that, but they are willing to sponsor. We've already had that conversation, so we're going to talk to them later this week. There's also a brand new 54-acre facility going in right there in Lone Tree to the east of I-25 where that empty metro stop is, and it's called Star Harbor. And that's going to be an amazing campus there. They have a geospatial high school program that they're rolling out in that curriculum, and they reached out to Elizabeth High School to see if we would be interested in bringing in a geospatial curriculum and opportunity. Unfortunately, I wish it wasn't the case, but resources create opportunity. It'd be nice if we lived in a society where every kid had an opportunity and the resources in their school district to participate in all these programs, but that's not the case. And the reason I say that is I would encourage you guys to seriously consider a mill levy and a bond this fall. You guys, in my opinion, are at a crossroads. We were going down this very fast pace and very high gold HTI program, and then the pandemic hit, and then we had a change in leadership, and we kind of lost some of that momentum. But those programs are still available, and we're getting some more motivated industry people, as well as some more money that's going to be coming available. And so I would encourage, as you guys look at the expansion and the growth we're having here in the local community, that a mill levy and a bond, when you go to the voters, it's not going to be one of these, if you give us the money, we will build it. I would argue we've already built it. It's not at the scale we want. You got kids standing out in 20-degree weather working on cars behind the mobile classroom over there. Wouldn't it be great if we had a big giant building that they could do auto shop in? But the auto program's already there. CNA's already there. Some of these other programs, construction. So in my view, if you go to the voters and say, hey, we already have these programs, come look at them, and we want the resources to expand them and make them better and provide more opportunities for more students. So I'd encourage you guys to think about that. In closing, I think, again, there's really an opportunity for the district to continue to provide 100% equity opportunity for all these kids. Predominantly the 45% that don't go to college. And thanks for your time, and I'll turn it back over to Brett.
Thank you, Dave.
Dave did steal a little bit of my thunder. That meeting is tomorrow morning at 10, by the way. So we talked a lot about the CTE, the career tech ed classes a little bit and things that we put in. I want to talk about some other things that we have done over the last couple of years for our kids on our campus. We have expanded concurrent enrollment classes for college algebra and trigonometry on our campus. We have kids taking lit and comp classes on our campus. We have Western Civ on our campus. Those are open to any junior and senior, some even open to sophomores. We have the opportunity, if we can add a couple of more, and we're looking at expanding to Spanish, chemistry, potentially government. It is possible within the next 2 years, I believe, that a student, if they want, could graduate from Elizabeth High School, not just with a high school diploma, but with a full year of college under their belt, paid for by us, and reimbursed by the state. We are doing great things. Again, Dave kind of stole some of my thunder, but auto, we're going to expand into auto 2 next year. With the potential of the auto shop coming online, we can expand potentially in a year or two to welding. I've got companies and people that have reached out to me that want to talk to us about potentially donating welding equipment. Mr. Bedoin, who's sitting out here in the audience, is working with Centennial Airport to potentially bring in FFA certified drone operators, and kids could actually go through ground school at Elizabeth High School. And I'm not even going to get into what our CTE department is doing with our business classes, our auto classes, and our culinary when they might be getting a food truck donated by the Elizabeth Fire Department, with all of those groups working together to put together a business plan, put together a menu, put together how we would service it, how we would use it, and the opportunity for us to actually maybe even make a little money on it. So our staff are doing wonderful things. Our kids are getting opportunities that they didn't have. But at this time, I feel I need to address what I see happening in our district. Director Olson and Director Booth, please stop chasing ghosts. We are not teaching critical race theory at Elizabeth High School, nor are we indoctrinating kids about non-traditional lifestyles. We are teaching kids skills to be successful when they leave us. But the work we are doing is being hampered by claims of CRT and LGBTQ agendas in our schools. This has to stop. I invite you to come and visit EHS. I want you to speak with me and observe what's happening in our classrooms. Neither of you have done so. Because of the nitpicking, good people have left, and more will. Your actions are putting our district and our kids at risk. Please stop acting like our district has changed for the worse since you have been on the board. You know better. That is not true. We, as the educators responsible for the students in Elizabeth, don't need political grandstanding. We need help to make real change for the kids we currently serve and the ones we will. Please be a part of the solution and not part of a non-existent problem. My door is open.
Thank you, Brett.
Anything else?
Yeah, that's awesome. Thank you very much.
I would like to address that comment, if I may. For one, you have never heard me say that we have critical race theory in our high school or any of our schools. You have never heard me say that you are pushing an LGBTQ agenda. So in that case, that is ghost hunting. My concerns have always been not necessarily what's on the inside, but keeping what is on the outside out of our schools. That has been my goal all along, and I will not waver on that stance. So I am sorry if you have misinterpreted my statements, but again, I have never said that we have CRT in our schools. I have never said we have misused mental health. I have never said anything that you have just stated. Again, I think it is our responsibility as a board to pay attention to what is going on around us, to pay attention what is coming down from the federal government, to pay attention to what is coming down from the state, to pay attention to our neighboring districts, such as Cherry Creek, and the mess that has become.
Rhonda, can I
No.
just real quick? We're going to have an opportunity for more
So
comment
again,
in just a minute.
that is my stance. That is my stance.
Okay. All right. Thank you. All right. During the Board of Education session, time will be provided on the agenda during public participation for members of the community to speak to the board on items of, I'm sorry. We're not going to quite go there yet. We're going to do the financial report from Rebecca. I got ahead of myself. So, Rebecca, the floor is yours.
No worries. I'll start with the checks over $5,000 really quick first. A lot of those are very similar that you see every month. The new additions are some payments for security radios and cleaning supplies. The rest are pretty much the same things that I list out every month, so if you guys have any questions, let me know. As far as financial statements, these are through the end of December. You'll also note that the mid-year budget revision that we put through at last month's meeting is not reflected in here. It will go into effect as of January. So take that into account with the percentages that I give you here. So as of the end of December, we're at 50% of the way through the fiscal year. The revenues that we've collected are at 38.12% of a percentage of the general fund budget, and then expenditures are at 50.45%. Overall, that leaves us where general fund expenditures are over budget by less than 1%. And then, any questions on the financials? Okay. And then I'm going to go into an item that we have for action later, discussing some preliminary salary changes that we'd like the board to consider. So the first thing I want to talk about is kind of how, at this point in time, we come up with what our funding projections look like. It's very early before the bill goes to the state legislature to know exactly how much funding we're going to get next year. So I kind of, on the presentation you see on the screen here, this is actually a snippet from CDE. I did put the link at the bottom where I got this from, but it kind of is an example to show you guys how we get to the amount of money that we receive each year. And so each portion is a percentage, or not a percentage, I'm sorry, a calculation that is the funded pupil count, which that is the number of students that we have. That is part of what you guys probably all receive in October to make sure your kids attend school on that pupil count day, to make sure that we're getting all of those students calculated in there, and then the per pupil funding, which is the calculation that the state throws together to give us a certain dollar amount per student. What I did is I just... Can you guys hear me? Sounded like it went out, sorry. What I did to get our estimation is I just took the 8% estimated inflation rate, which is what the state is required to increase our funding every year, and I kept that at a flat per pupil count with no increase in pupils to try and give us a reasonable and conservative estimation of what money we can expect in addition next year. So on this next page you'll see I kind of did 4 different scenarios, and we are moving forward with an estimate of $1.5 million, the one highlighted in green. And then based on that, we worked through some issues that not just us, all school districts are having a lot of these issues, but we have staffing issues where there's a nationwide teacher shortage, there's a nationwide bus driver shortage, there's shortages all over the place, but teachers are very hard to find and keep. And then we also have SPED-related or special education shortages across many positions. And then the long-term subs, those are situations where we have many teacher positions that we didn't even fill last year that we are filling with long-term subs. So the more we can be competitive to try and get those filled with a full-time teacher, the better off we are for our students. And then districts are competing with retail and fast food workers because the pay, I think down at the McDonald's that just opened up, I think it's like $17, $18 an hour, and it's hard for us to keep up with paying that. And then we also compete with each other, which kind of brings me into my next slide, where we want to try and stay competitive. So I put together some average teacher salaries. This information is also available on CDE's website in case anybody wants to poke around and find any other school districts that I did not list here. But I tried to do the ones that were kind of closest to us geographically. And so you'll see here that we are the lowest across all of these districts here in our average teacher salary. And then on the next one is our starting teacher pay. And you'll notice in the same list of schools that we are also still the lowest. So not just are we lowest average, we are also lowest starting out of these teachers or out of these schools. And I just want to call out, I did not call it on the last slide really quick. One more. Yeah, average. The average one. Yeah. So the state average is the one all the way at the end is $60,453 a year. We are at $43,618 for the average. So, with that being said, we would like to propose a few salary changes for the board to consider. One is to move our special education teachers from the teacher salary schedule and move them to the special services salary schedule, which would provide it's a higher paid schedule because of the special services category. It would allow us to be more competitive in that area. And we would also incorporate hard to fill and retain stipends into the base pay for the SPED teachers. That would be a plus for them because even though they're already getting a stipend, it is not currently parent includable in their retirement. So that would provide an additional benefit for them. And then increases in teacher salary schedules first step from $37,502 for a starting teacher level 1 coming in and bump that up to a flat $40,000. And then basically the last step here would be $1,000 step increase whenever you hit an anniversary. So if you're going from year 4 to 5, instead of the standard $832, I believe it is, per step, you go to 1,000 on those anniversaries. It gives you just a little bit of a bump, and it accumulates over the years for teachers with longevity to help just acknowledge their longevity and encourage them to stay. And then on this slide, this is just kind of showing you where I start with that $1.5 million, and then it breaks down the associated costs and money that we can recoup from the hard-to-fill stipends, so there is a negative on there, you'll see, to give you the total cost of what that is to get our teachers and our special education teachers moved over to the special services and our teachers' base pay moved up. Would basically be $626,824.20 is the estimated cost to the district. That would leave us $883,824.80. The reason that we're bringing this at this point in time is to try and be as competitive during the staffing market so that we can post that schedule, that pay schedule for next year on our job postings. So, any questions?
Thank you very, very much for working on that.
It was a group effort. I'm the one presenting, but I can't take all the credit.
Yeah, go ahead, Craig.
So I just want to add here that I remember a time when Elizabeth schools were the third from the bottom in the entire state. And as we gradually kept working and working and working to build this up to this 40,000 mark, this is a landmark for us. And it didn't take a lot of rocket scientry to figure out that when you retain teachers, test scores go up. When you pay teachers a good salary and they get to stick around for a while, the kids get the best possible education. And so I'm not missing the detail here. That 40,000 is huge, and it does. It makes us competitive with not just schools neighboring us, but around the state and actually around the country, because we do attract people from around the country. So I can't stress enough just how big this is for us.
Thank you, Craig. All right, and thank you, Rebecca. Bill, you're up. Superintendent report.
Okay. Well, again, thank you for that, Rebecca. And assuming that in an action item that comes up later today during this meeting, if the board were to feel so inclined as to approve the recommended changes, I've been working with Mr. Schuman as well, and communication will go out by the end of the week to each teacher in the district to notify them of where they would be on that salary schedule that's been developed. And in addition, this is where we felt safe at this point in time when it comes to the expected additional revenue and where we can place teacher salaries at this point in time. In the event that we end up with more revenue than what we can forecast conservatively at this time, then we will come back and present potential further adjustments. But this is where we feel we could move forward with at this time. And I wanted to thank many people: Rebecca, Tammy Kruger, Ken Schuman, Mike Newton. Thank you, because those individuals and myself have been working since December to be able to put together these projections and be able to try to find how we can make the salary schedule as competitive as we can at this point in time. So moving on, a few updates for the board and for our community. First off, calendar updates. There's no school this Friday, which is a staff development day. There's also no school on Monday, February 20th, in observance of the President's Day holiday. Last week was National School Counselor Appreciation Week, and I was able to make my way around the schools and really just wanted to thank everybody for the amazing outpouring of supports from our staff, our students, and our community members to celebrate our counselors and everything they do for kids. And also, we had the opportunity to celebrate our school resource officers earlier today, but I wanted to point out that on the 15th of this month, it's National SRO Appreciation Day, so if you see our SROs out and about, please take a moment and give them a thank you for the tough job that they do to support our students every day. We have a couple of updates when it comes to some of the work that we've engaged in recently along some of the long-term strategic planning. We had RTA Architects out on February 7th, where we hosted a planning assistance team meeting at Running Creek Elementary School. I'm very appreciative of all the participants from that community who wanted to spend about 2 hours with me and some other members of the district to really start that process. I believe we have a great representation of students, staff, community figures, and parents. The first meeting was focused in on identifying strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats facing the school district so that we can start to plan around those. Some of the themes were gratitude that we've begun this work and a consensus that this work is critical for the future of our district, and also a consensus that the district, an affirmation that the district needs to continue to focus in on skilled trades and CTE programming. So there's a number of additional meetings to come, and then there'll be a presentation to the board on the findings and recommendations from that planning assistance team and RTA Architects. We're also still chugging along when it comes to work that we're doing with Schneider Electric. We've kind of coined the phrase resource efficiency initiative because we're really trying to focus in on extending the duration and the life of our buildings so that we can maximize our taxpayer support and make sure as though our buildings are capable of meeting the needs of students in the future. And so I wanted to thank Schneider Electric. Due to their support, we've been able to submit a concept paper and an intent to apply for a federal grant that would fund air conditioning for Singing Hills and Running Creek Elementary School. No guarantee yet. We, as a result of that work, which again would not have been possible without Schneider Electric, we've been invited to submit for the full technical proposal, and that grant comes due, I think it was in April. But Schneider Electric is supporting us with their grant writers and engineers to help put together the technical proposal. And once we've submitted for the final proposal, once we're ready to submit for the final proposal, we'll bring that to the board so that you can review that and also have an opportunity to review any assurances that are necessary in the process. We're coming up on the 30% benchmark soon on the work that they've been doing. They've had a number of engineers out across our buildings over the last month evaluating how we can try to address deferred maintenance needs in the district by reinvesting and getting our energy consumption costs down to an industry level standard. Mr. McClendon mentioned the automotive program at the high school, so I want to definitely thank members of the Elbert County Partnership, particularly Dan Rosales, who's been helping to put together a number of bids across multiple different organizations. The district received a co-action grant, which is going to help fund the installation of a new building for the automotive program, and so we've kind of been working on finalizing who those finalists are. We do have a recommended final general contractor that we're starting to try to narrow down the pricing as best we possibly can, but it is our plan that at the next board meeting that we will have that general contractor and some potential renderings and financials for the board to review to move forward with a potential. Our goal is for that building to be open at the start of the school year. Okay. So finally, as many of you know, after being hired to serve as the assistant superintendent, I was asked to fill both the interim and assistant superintendent roles. I'm extremely proud of the work that we've started and grateful for the support of the staff and community in Elizabeth while I've served as the interim superintendent. We've completed a lot in a short amount of time, which includes reestablishing systems across our district and school to increase collaboration, evolving suspension and expulsion processes to increase transparency and due process for students, optimizing threat assessments and suicide risk assessments across the districts to maximize school safety. We have a nationally recognized school safety program, and I want to congratulate Mr. Mike Newton in the back, if you weren't aware, as a finalist for a National School Safety Award. We've provided all staff with a $750 bonus back in November. That was the same for all staff across the district. We've begun a process to recapture lost revenue due to deferred maintenance with Schneider Electric, implemented a long-range facilities master planning process with RTA Architects. We're leading the community with a $1.3 million co-action grant, expanding our skilled trade opportunities for students, initiated parent and staff surveys that will be providing the board of directors with budget priorities from the District Accountability Committee, also known as the DAC. We've started a district policy review committee to assist the board in developing and adjusting policies, setting the district on a path of being current with its policies. We've created a Department of Curriculum and Instruction that will be building curriculum maps that will articulate vertical alignment across our schools and work towards establishing instructional frameworks. And now we're early to the conversation on evaluating revenue adjustments for the next year to position the board in a place where it can help to make our teacher compensation as competitive as possible. Since assuming these roles, I've been asked a number of times whether I intend to apply for the permanent position of superintendent. All this important work would not be possible without the incredible support I've received from the school and district staff and the community. However, after much consideration last week, I did decide not to pursue the position of superintendent. I'm honored to have the opportunity to serve the community and will continue to serve as interim superintendent for the remainder of the year. And I want to thank all of those of you who have supported with the work that we've done and share in the long-term vision of what is possible for students in Elizabeth School District.
Thank you, Bill. Thank you very much. All right, now we're going to move on to my report, and my report is about the upcoming superintendents, or the current superintendent search, but I first want to express my thanks and appreciation to Bill for doing an absolutely fabulous job over the last, 6, 7, 8 months since Douglas Bissonnette left us, and We have accomplished more in that period of time than we did probably for the last couple of years of the last couple of years prior to this. And so I am excited that Bill is staying on as assistant superintendent because that's what we hired him to do originally. So, and as we move forward to hire a superintendent for the district, that superintendent will immediately see the value and understand what great work he does. I've received several comments from a number of members in the community, parents, employees around the district about Bill, but one in particular, and this one didn't know, this came last week prior to Bill making the announcement. So this employee, not employee, but they're a family member that participate in some of the programs that we have going. Our District Accountability Committee, she's a member of the District Accountability Committee. And I don't know that she'd want me to mention her name, so I'm not going to, but now you know it's a she, so there you go. But my overall point in this email is to say that our current interim superintendent, Dr. William Dallas, is an exceptional addition to the district, and it's my opinion that he would be a very strong choice for the permanent position. I have had the opportunity to see him in his element at the DAC meetings and at school board meeting I attended in mid-September. He is appropriately professional at all times. He has the business demeanor and knowledge necessary to accomplish the many tasks ahead of this position in the coming years. As I see it, the district is in imminent need of expansion, and Mr. Dallas has shown through his experience that he is qualified to see that through. He has been in the Colorado school system for at least 14 years, and not only has he worked in a rural community and understands those nuances, but has also more recently worked in a larger district and served as the lead project manager in the ground-up construction of one of the largest middle schools in Colorado, something I see as a huge advantage with Mr. Dallas, a subject needing immense attention in our district in the coming years. He's worked his way up through the system as a teacher, assistant principal, and now has successfully stepped in as the interim superintendent, the latter being uniquely admirable to me because he has shown professional ownership and care in his position, knowing the temporary possibility. One of his degrees is in educational leadership, which indicates an early desire to be an eventual superintendent. It seems to me that Mr. Dallas has all the necessary attributes to more than cover the qualifications listed in the job posting. One thing that seems important to note was and is his openness for the DAC, the District Accountability Committee, to send out parent climate and staff climate surveys this year. His willingness to openly receive feedback, good, bad, or indifferent, and share the results with the school community outlining ways we can improve shows an immense amount of selflessness and an equal amount of care toward the improvement of the ESD in the future. Mr. Dallas is, in closing, an extremely fitting and valuable addition to our district that I sincerely hope you give the earned attention to his outstanding qualifications. So I want to thank her for submitting that and writing that. It's very well thought out, and I'm just sorry that Bill withdrew his application last week. So thank you, Bill, and every word of that is like dead on, so thank you. Okay, now what I attempted to do, I don't know, a half an hour ago was to move on to public comment. I'm going to do that now. And I'm going to read the standard that we read, just setting it up for all of us. During the Board of Education session, time will be provided on the agenda during public participation for members of the community to speak to the board on items of interest or concern that do not appear elsewhere on the agenda. It is the Board of Education's practice not to hear in public session complaints against any district personnel. In addition, it is a violation of federal law to discuss in public or elsewhere individual student issues, family education rights, and Privacy Act, that's FERPA. In an effort to avoid undue repetition and keep within the time frame of the agenda, the board asks that speakers who have come to express similar opinions on a particular topic designate a spokesperson for the group. Other questions and comments requiring feedback will be referred to the superintendent for consideration and later response. And I mentioned at the beginning that we would be taking those questions and preparing an answer and posting it on our website so everybody can see the questions and concerns that are going on or comments, and then our answer to those. Each person addressing the board will have 3 minutes to present his or her views. We will ask you to wrap it up as you get near the end of the allotted 3 minutes. The boundaries are designed to help keep the meeting focused. And then following our public comment, then the board is allowed time then to make their comments as well. So we're going to start. First person up is Michelle Owen. Come on up, Michelle.
I'm Michelle Owen. I work at Running Creek Preschool. I've been a district employee for 10 years. I love our students and families, and I want only the best for them. In my 10 years of service, I have never felt such an uncertainty and turmoil within our district. I understand that some people are here because they think their conservative values are under attack. I am here to say that's not the case. You were lured here with false intentions. We are teaching what we've always taught. We're here for the kids. It's what we do. It's been made clear that in this pursuit for conservative values has quickly changed to an attack on our schools and teachers. Our administrators are being targeted and pushed out. Our administrative staff is being targeted and pushed out. Our teachers are being targeted and pushed out. It has created a toxic division between our community and district, which has created a climate of uncertainty for our teachers. We don't feel trusted to teach our classes, and we're starting to feel like we're not wanted. Currently, we have 30 job postings in our district. Some positions have been posted since the beginning of the year and have never been filled. What do we do when the teachers that are here, the ones that really want to be here, what do we do when they decide that they don't want to work like this? I'm afraid for myself, I'm afraid for my colleagues, and I'm afraid for our schools. I'm asking for the people who are here tonight, I'm asking our community, stand with your teachers, stand with our teachers, and save our schools.
Thank you, Michelle. Thank you. Next up is Michael Tumko. I don't know if I said that right.
Good evening, Board, ladies, gentlemen. My family and I moved here from Aurora almost 2 years ago. We wanted a more conservative community and school district. We care about our children and their upbringing. Our twins have been here at Running Creek Preschool since we moved here. We have had nothing but positive experiences with the teachers and the staff. Our kids come home happy. They have grown and they have thrived. They are sad when there is no school because they miss their teachers and their friends. We are just now starting to hear some of the rumors that are going around, and honestly, we aren't quite sure all of what is going on. But it concerns us that all of this is causing such turmoil within our community and at our school. We feel like a lot of fear is being instilled in the community, and that people are taking hearsay as fact. Please, do your research. Do not contribute to the rumors that are spreading. Lead by example. Our kids are looking up to us to model behavior. Do we want to destroy this community and our school district because of hearsay? We are fearful of what the school district will become if people cannot come together and stop instilling fear in the community. We want well-rounded children. No, I do not want CRT in our school. No, we do not see there is a problem with SEL. Yes, we are concerned that people are pushing so much fear and pushing so hard and so far on what should and shouldn't be taught in our schools, that our children will grow up sheltered. We have many more concerns about this, but now is not the time. We believe the bigger issue at hand is pushing out good teachers and spreading rumors. Our children have thrived during their time at the preschool, and we care for the teachers, and we love that they are so caring and nurturing to our kids. We keep hearing rumors that all these teachers have hidden agendas when it comes to education. Granted, our kids are only in preschool, but we are not seeing this, nor have we heard facts supporting this. If we continue to push these teachers out, then our children will suffer. If we push these good teachers out, they will destroy Running Creek. If we push these teachers out, what kind of teachers will we get to replace them? You will get the teachers who don't care about the students, their needs, or their education. You will get the teachers who just come here to get their experience and then move on to bigger, better paying school districts. You will get the teachers who may actually teach the curriculum that our current teachers are supposedly teaching as part of their supposed hidden agenda. Please stop spreading hearsay. Please start supporting our teachers. Thank you.
Thank you, Michael. Thank you. Thank you. Next up, Mary Anderson. Oh, no, well.
I'm not Mary. I'm Jim Anderson, Mary's husband, and I'm here on behalf of my grandson, James Coring. My grandson, James Coring, attended schools in the Elizabeth School District for 14 years. In his last 4 years, he thrived both academically and athletically. He lettered 7 times in sports and received all-state and all-conference honors in football. He was one of only a handful of male athletes who was nominated for the T.J. Schreiner Award, which highlights students with outstanding character, defined as not having a history of disciplinary action. In his freshman year, he was nominated by his football coach to represent male student athletes on the Achieving Excellence Committee, led by the athletic director. Being on the track and field team was where James's passion flourished. He fell in love with throwing discus his freshman year. With that passion, our family committed to his goals of breaking the Elizabeth School records, becoming a state champion, and getting a college scholarship. With these goals in mind, James participated in year-round training, receiving group, individual training, attending camps, and networking with college coaches. He was reaching these goals during his senior year. He broke the high school discus record here at Elizabeth that had remained unbroken since 2003. He then broke his own record a week later. The last week of high school was when all his dedication and hard work would be rewarded. Attending his high school graduation and participating in the state track and field meet, where would all his 1,000 hours of hard work and discipline take him, and who of the 20 coaches recruiting him might offer him a scholarship? It appeared that the time for fruition had come. However, this ended up being the start of our story filled with betrayal and unrepairable heartache delivered by the high school administration, the former and current superintendent, and this board. Not one action has come close to the district's mission of students are the heart of everything we do. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, next up is Lori Coring.
So as you know already, I'm James Coring's mom and my dad, who just spoke about him. So 2 days before my son's high school graduation ceremony, an employee watching school bus surveillance video for an unrelated matter had the perception that a physical movement made by my son involving another female athlete on the school bus as something egregious. Despite his repetitive denial when interrogated alone by the high school administration, James was suspended and his high school graduation ceremony revoked. The principal provided a verbal agreement that we would be given 1 day of practice and then he'd be allowed to attend the state track meet the upcoming week. Surprisingly, I was contacted by the female athlete the school labeled as the victim and found that her story corroborated with that of my son. It became evident that the school did not conduct a complete investigation and had interviewed everyone except the one person that would have firsthand knowledge of intent, actions, and context of the situation. The very next morning, she and her mother even tried to speak to the principal, who promptly ended the call, not even giving her a chance to tell her story. This is when I became louder. I emailed, I called the superintendent's office, but no response. So we drove to the superintendent's office. But of course, he was out of the office, and then apparently the school board doesn't exist in the month of May. I emailed again, begging for someone to help us so that our family didn't miss seeing my only son graduate high school. James asked me to just give up because he was just too worried they would also take the state track meet away as a retaliative measure. I reassured him that they gave us our word, clearly stating that the track meet would not be revoked. They wouldn't do that. Well, we received an email Monday morning stating that they decided to revise his discipline to now include removal of the qualified entry into the state track meet. A track meet where numerous college coaches would be present to conduct their final evaluation of him. A track meet where the crowned state champion was an athlete that James just beat the previous weekend by several feet. A track meet that we invested in for 4 years, removed because I tried to advocate for my son's civil rights. We have continued to fight and punishment continues to be added on. Nearly a year later, the athletic director has left the 2003 school record on the track and field record wall at the high school. I'm also happy to share the details of the most recent letter sent from the school's legal counsel, a letter so harsh it remains partially unread. It's filled with accusations and threats that most would never even be able to say to their worst enemy. As it stands, these leaders have dispensed the most severe punishment in the history of the tenure of this district to a kid with no disciplinary history, someone who friended those who didn't have friends, a kid that loved spending time with his teachers more than his buddies, a kid nominated for numerous awards and committees based on his character, a kid that leaves your cheek muscles sore from all the smiling and laughing he causes. I trusted each of you to have my son at the heart of everything you do, but for some reason he was dispensable, and policies and procedures, professional courtesy didn't apply. There's been no accountability, and this board and superintendent have only exacerbated the situation. All I can do as a parent is let our experience be on record here at this board meeting. James wasn't the first student that this happened to, and he also wasn't the last.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next up is Deanna Miller.
Thank you. My name is Deanna Miller, and I'm the legal guardian of a freshman at Elizabeth High School. I'm also a retired teacher of 32 years from Jefferson County Public Schools and a 3-year substitute in Elbert County. I'm here to implore you to put up strong conservative walls about our children in Elbert County. I'm concerned that you and some community members are not grasping the real dangers before us. CRT and social emotional learning are probably not being taught right now. They're right. But it is coming, and we need to be proactive. The Colorado State Department of Education just passed in November a revised social studies curriculum. Within that curriculum is CRT and social emotional learning. And we will have to implement it just like every district in Colorado to some degree. And it says by the summer of 2023. So that's just around the corner, okay? These programs are coming into our schools are extremely dangerous to our constitutional way of life. Each time the federal government and liberal universities and philanthropists gather to create new bureaucratic programs for our schools, publishing companies get rich and children end up further behind. First, there was no child left behind. Remember that? When every child was left behind. And then there was Common Core. Remember that? It was sold for our children to get 21st century skills ready, right? Well, the skills plummeted. This is data from the National Association of Educational Progress in just one area. From 2005 to 2013, our scores in math were going up. After Common Core, from 2014 to 2019, they went down. They were dismal failures. And now we have CRT and social emotional learning. Today, they are being sold as programs to improve our children's social interactions and cure emotional problems. Just like in the past, these programs will fail miserably. Worse yet, CRT and SEL are designed to interrupt family values and destroy the love for our nation. They are after our children's mental and emotional states of mind. Just look at how they started. Critical race theory was an academic discipline founded by Marxist professors who used Marxist analysis to conclude that racial dominance by whites created systematic racism. When people started standing up against this, the organization that was pushing these programs then employed a new tactic to work against the grassroots. They began calling their program diversity, equity, and inclusion. The word equity made it sound equitable, and that helped sell it. But equity is not the same as equal. These programs actually pit one against another. Instead of teaching love your neighbor, you are taught to despise him, especially if he is white. And it says whites must renounce their privilege. They say that children must not forgive, but are told to hold grudges. Please protect our children with a strong wall against these programs. Thank you.
Thank you. Nancy Wisewell? Did I say that right? No. Wiswell? I said it right then.
Well, you're good. You're okay. So, I'm Nancy Wiswell, and I've been living in Elbert County for 42 years. I'm a mother, and I'm a grandmother, and I just want to say I agree with Deanna. She's my spokesperson now. And we just don't want our kids to be taught this ideology. I have nothing against the teachers. Thank you for teaching our kids. I have nothing against the schools. I just want you to be aware of this ideology, and we just don't want our kids being taught this. And that's all. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you very much. This one's easy. Amy Green.
Hi, I'm Amy Green, a resident of Elizabeth for 23 years and the mother of three children who attended Elizabeth schools and graduated from Elizabeth High School. I also worked in the county, in Elizabeth C1 schools for 7 years. I also support Deanna, and I would like to talk about the SEL, social emotional learning. It is just as bad, if not worse, as CRT or the diversity and inclusion. Veiled under SEL, claiming to build kids' self-confidence, it is an elite agenda of social engineering that insists on total conformity of thought. It disregards the genuine individuality of students and their family relationships. It will pit children against their parents, a tactic used to establish communism. I know this because of a dear friend of mine, Lily Tang, who grew up in China during the Cultural Mao Revolution. She said what she sees coming into our U.S. schools today reminds her of the beginning of what she experienced as a child in China. The teachers taught the children to hate their history and long-held traditions. The children were told what they could and could not share with their parents about their schoolwork. The children were encouraged to tell on their parents if their parents disagreed with what was being taught in the schools. The children would receive a red ribbon to put around their arms if they turned any family members into the state. It was a status symbol. Children with red bands were elevated in the classroom and schools. Parents and grandparents who disagreed with what children were being taught in schools were eventually arrested, jailed, and tortured, and sometimes killed. Lily has said that these evil academic disciplines that are creeping into our classrooms are open doors to the beginning of the communist agenda. She would know. She grew up in communist China. Remember who started the program, Marxist professors. We agree that children's social and emotional mental health needs should be met, however, in a wise way, and not at the expense of separating children from family values. We do not want boys being told that they can be girls or girls that they can be boys. We do not want to support mental illness that says children can identify as cat or dogs. Ideas from SEL and CTR are being embedded in subjects in our schools. In one case, a student from Elizabeth High School in the EP class said that there was critical race theory found in parts of the subject. These ideas are not harmless, and do not dismiss it and say some parts of it are good. I'm not here to be against the teachers, and I would like to say that I would like to have discussions about it and find solutions. It is our duty to be forthright and honest with our parents, and I heard that the last meeting, as a solution, a board member suggests that the board work on a parent right document. I think this would be a very wise effort to pursue, and I hope that you would do that. I also would suggest that you hire a mediator to handle the situation at Running Creek and get this under control, because I think there's a lot of fear and people being made out as bad guys, and they're not. So please stick together and look at the real danger staring us right in the face. Thank you.
Thank you. Next up is Dr. Robert Meyer.
I came here because I wanted to ask for greater transparency from the school board. I guess now we can ask questions. Hopefully that will solve that problem. We need to watch and make sure that that actually is happening. A very heated situation here, and I'm trying to find a balanced position about this. I certainly understand teachers. My wife was a teacher for 30 years, and the low pay and some of the other hard things that go with being a teacher, I'm very familiar with that. Nationwide, there is this massive, almost irresistible movement to start pushing critical race theory, transgenderism, LGBTQ. It's almost irresistible, and it's coming here. I have seen assignments given in classrooms in Elizabeth School District which were pushing racial division. So it's coming. It's creeping in. It's probably very small at this point, but it is coming. I support Rhonda and Heather in being vigilant against that. We have to be vigilant. It's almost irresistible. If we aren't extremely vigilant, it will take over. Now, I want to remind everyone in this room that the final authority over the education of children in this school district is the parents and concerned citizens. It's not the school board, it's not the superintendent, it's not the teachers. Across this nation, parents are taking control again of the education of their children. I hope we can accomplish this without a revolution. I hope it can be handled peaceably. But that's going to require a recognition on the part of the board and the superintendent and the teachers. The parents are in charge. You cannot shut out their input. You cannot ignore it. If you look at history, suppressing the voice of the people is a sure way to create a revolution. You don't want to do that here. Make it easy for parents to have the influence that they deserve, for citizens. Don't make it difficult. Don't be secretive. Put it right out there. Let us be involved, and we can come to a peaceful resolution. If we don't, the alternatives are not going to be good.
Thank you. Aaron Prince, was that close?
Hi, sorry. Don't have anything prepared. It's my first time coming. I just came here to support the teachers. First time our kids are first time enrolled in Running Creek. Very happy with our teachers. They're extremely great. Our kids come home happy. We come here. We've been living here. Back up. Been living here for the last 8 to 10 years now. Very happy. We've done homeschool for years due to the whole COVID pandemic. I don't want to have to do it again. And we won't. Kind of lynching on that end. That parents are the ending result. Are the last of the. Sorry. That parents are the ultimate teachers in the end. We are. We touch base with our parents. I want to remind parents that we are parents. Teachers are helping us teach. Whatever they teach in the classroom, touch base with your kids. No matter what they teach, it's our responsibility as parents to touch base with them. Whether they teach CRT, I'm not a fan of it either. I'm not a fan of any of that. And believe me, we will touch base with them. But we are extremely happy. We love our teachers. They are teaching them great things. Our kids come home happy, and we will continue to support our teachers. Please don't leave. We will always support you guys.
Thank you very much. All right, Jim Behill.
Hello. All right, here we go. So, the silent majority. Republicans, conservatives, country folks are kind of synonymous to me. And these are the people that unfortunately have a really bad personality trait. And that personality trait is minding their own business, live and let live. People that moved out here to the country because they don't think like city folks. I'm sure you heard the expression before, drawing the line in the sand, and that's where I'm going to stand my ground. We're way past that shifting line. We're to the point now of drawing a line on a rock, and I mean the rock. We've been awakened, and now we're pushed into a corner and our backs against the wall. We must expose these nebulous words and acronyms, the whole woke agenda, and present them clearly. CRT is critical race theory. Racism reignited in our society meant to divide us. SEL, social emotional learning. Why can't we just focus on reading, writing, arithmetic, and trade school lessons? Transgenderism and confusing pronouns to redefine the simple truth of a man and a woman is what human beings are. The whole woke agenda is coming fast to this community, and some of it's already here. This is a screenshot from the Nextdoor app of a 6th grader's lesson from language arts. And it says, critics are concerned not just about the lack of diversity in tech, but also about how white interpretations of diversity interpret industry, and the instruction for the student is to fill in a box. And then it further says, the people who build and fund technology products in 2016 look largely the same as they did 20 years ago. White men still dominate the industry, as do white interpretations of diversity. Just statements like this are egregious. Anytime that we acknowledge difference in races, I think just perpetuates this nightmare, and I hope it can end somehow. Anyway, all this has got to be rooted out, and I mean pulled out by the roots and replaced with good plants our kids can grow in. I don't care how much financial bribery is attached to the programming, and it's got to be taken out so it doesn't take root. The school board should vet all old curriculum and new curriculum, special ed, in the classroom, in counseling, on the sports field, everywhere that contacts students' eyes and ears. Very few people will totally agree on all things, but I'm seeing people on this board working towards these goals, and that would be Rhonda and Heather. And I want to applaud their efforts and hope they will continue to work, as they will surely gain support, because they are the silent majority, the majority of the real woke, the people that are woke up now. and their backs are against the wall, and they're drawing a line in stone. I'm sure you're already seeing the woke people standing up as now. You said I could ask a question. The one question,
and then we'll reply before the next.
The one question I would like to ask is where I can find the rules, the job description, the rules of conduct, the duties, the ethics of board members and superintendent, where I can find in writing so I can understand what you guys can do, can't do, should do, shouldn't do, just so I know the rules of the game.
Okay.
Thank you.
I'd be happy to provide that. Thank you. Maggie Witherby?
Hello, good evening. I'm Maggie Witherby. I'm an Albert County resident, and I have been standing up for freedom for quite some time and traditional American values for as long as I can remember. And I would tell you how long, but that would be giving away my age. We started a freedom group, Albert County Stands Up, in late 2020 to protest the pandemic and the resulting unnecessary business, church, and school closures across our country. Many of us were relieved when the schools in Albert County appeared to resist much of the insanity. We believed that we had excellent leadership in our school district, both on the professional side, the teachers and the administration and the school board, and that we were somehow saved from all of the things that we saw across the other parts of the country. Were our assumptions correct? I'm not sure that they were. We're hearing today that CRT, SEL, and other forms of what we would call social or Marxist or liberal philosophy have found their way into our school systems. So we find ourselves fighting for traditional American values. It's a great concern that when we have opposing views, that all of a sudden, those opposing views generate an effort to shut down and intimidate opposing voices. I think we've heard that tonight. And this is not about the teachers. We love the teachers. I've heard from teachers, we heard the words fear and afraid. That's unacceptable. They shouldn't be afraid. Why are they expressing those kinds of views? We the people are here tonight to put the Elizabeth School District on notice. We the people are watching. We're going to demand accountability. We're going to insist on having an excellent public school system, not a politically correct educational system. We will work with all of you side by side. And you can call all of us, the citizens out there who believe in traditional American values, that's your new District Accountability Committee. So thank you very much, and we'll be happy to work with you in the future.
Thank you very much. Emily or Bob Spencer?
Hi, Bob Spencer. We didn't know what any topics were going to happen today. We're new to the community for about a year. We've got twins in the middle school and have nothing but great things to say about the school district. And just let you know that I want to support the school district in their endeavors and all the things that come up with school districts that you have to deal with. And it takes a community. And we just appreciate your efforts in all that you do. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Sean McWhorter.
Good evening. My name is Sean McWhorter, and I'm here tonight to announce that the recall of Director Heather Booth has been filed today. I believe that the school district relies on the recall of Director Booth. Director Booth has violated policies BBA-R under Vision and Board Conduct and BCA-E-1 Code of Ethics on multiple occasions. The public slandering of staff is unprofessional and unbecoming of an elected leader. She displays hostility to the school board, certain teachers, certain staff, certain students, and certain community members. Elected officials have policies and procedures to follow. Just a few of the policies that have been disregarded by Director Booth are: the Code of Ethics of the school board members state, board members will support the employment of those persons best qualified to serve as school staff and insight on regular and impartial evaluations of all staff. Her personal attacks, public slandering, and bullying staff members is in direct violation of these policies. The board policy BBA-R is called a Standards for the Performance of the Elizabeth School District of Education under Board Conduct. States, the Elizabeth School District Board of Education will function as a whole unit rather than a collection of individuals. For example, hosting meetings and greets without the proper number of board members present. Also, the Elizabeth School District Board of Education will demonstrate an effective decision-making principles. Director Booth demands to hire a conservative superintendent and a conservative law firm for the district. There is a big difference between being conservative and radical. Director Booth's words and actions prove that she is radical. Lastly, the Elizabeth School District Board of Education will maintain trusting relationship with its community and staff. Director Booth slanders current staff members multiple times, and most recently at the meet and greet on Tuesday, February 7th, which violates the policy. Furthermore, under the same policy, BBA-R, under behavior, the Elizabeth School District Board of Education will put the needs of students first, practice ethical behavior by observing appropriate limitations on their power and position. Director Booth stands on the current and false narratives impact her ability to serve all students, regardless of the political beliefs, ability, race, religion, or sexual orientation. Director Booth's stance will single out students in our schools, negatively affecting their safety and well-being. I stand here tonight supporting for Director Blackham, Director Karchuk, Director Frumville, sorry if I said that wrong, and the Elizabeth District leadership, teachers, and all of the students. I ask everyone present watching online to join in the recall of Director Heather Booth and put a stop to the radical behavior of the school board member. Kids should always come first. Elizabeth School District students deserve better.
Thank you. Okay, next up is Robert Rowland.
Don't know that I need this. There's a lot going on here tonight. I want to very quickly, before I comment about what I think has happened this evening, I do want to say, first and foremost, that I'm very pleased to hear that you all are addressing the issue of school and teacher retention and the salaries. Douglas County has announced that even though they lost the election to get to $68 million, they've announced that their salaries are going to be more competitive. We just heard what Cherry Creek did. They're bragging about being the highest paid district in the state. Aurora is doing the same. All of that is great. I am thrilled to death for the teachers in those districts. But given the fact that those border our district, And we already have a retention and a recruitment problem. We're $6,000 less than our starting salary just for a beginning teacher with a bachelor's degree. I'm glad to hear we're doing something. I know we have restrictions. I know all about the state funding. 65% comes from state taxes, income and sales tax, and the other percentage comes from our local mill levy increase or mill levy revenues. All of that is, we have you got the negative factor that came from, Amendment 23 several years ago. All of that, but I just want you to know that it is very encouraging. I came here tonight to beg you and ask you to be addressing that issue with our teachers. Our teachers in this district are incredible. I've had 3 children. One is my granddaughter here this afternoon is a sophomore in the high school. I have a grandson who's 22 that went through the school, has graduated, and a 9-year-old grandson currently in the 3rd grade at Running Creek, all of which have benefited from the counseling in the schools and the support of the teachers like I didn't even have the opportunity when I grew up in Ann Arbor, Michigan many years ago. So thank you to the teachers. Let's make no mistake. You're hearing that clearly tonight. The teachers are not the issue. What we are hearing tonight, though, is really clear. And I want to recognize, first of all, last month's meeting, you each said, and you, the President, said specifically, and some others as well in different manners, different ways, that you would not support, you would not vote for CRT and all the other pronouns that go, or the definitions that go with all of that. I believe you. We will continue to believe you until we don't believe you. So we are watching. We want our children to tell us what they see in school. We want to make sure that what we see and know is true, and we will continue, and I think you've heard tonight. We are the wall. You are the wall as well. And let's work together and be that wall and not let down and not ever allow that to come here. It is coming. It's coming just like the salary competition, and we expect you to do your part as voted and elected officials and keep the promises you made last month. And God bless you. We will be on your side, and we will work on the solutions on money and salaries and all the other issues. Let's work together. That one is the line in the sand for all of us. Thank you.
Thank you. William King.
Good evening. I find it strange tonight that there is a move to recall Heather Booth and Rhonda Olson, when there is a behind-the-scenes movement to recall Carrie, Kim, and Craig for 3 reasons: resistance to parental rights, support for SEL programs, and support for transgenderism and LGBTQ+ agendas. Tonight, I stand before you in support of 2 Elizabeth School District board members, Heather Booth and Rhonda Olson. Heather and Rhonda tirelessly are meeting their commitment to advocate and focus for the children's needs, fighting for transparency for the constituents who elected them. This current board is dysfunctional. It is clearly visible to a casual observer that this board is not unified. And it is contentious among itself. This is not what we elected you to do. Heather and Rhonda have hosted 2 open meet and greets recently for the purpose of soliciting community inputs and concerns critical issues facing the Elizabeth School District. All board members were invited to these forums. Only 2 attended. Now we find that a board member covertly enlisted an individual to attend February 6th forum and secretly record a public meeting. While this is not illegal, I and many find this highly unethical and deceptive. This kind of behavior does not promote transparency. The perception is that free speech and the exchange of ideas is being discouraged and blocked by some board members. Elbert County is a conservative rural community and strongly desires classical education, conservative values, and rejects the CRT ideology. Thank you.
Thank you. Denise Reeves.
I, unlike others before me, will keep my comments brief. I do believe that all of the school board members need to be reminded that the only thing you're here for is the kids. I appreciate the teachers and I appreciate the efforts that were made to get many of them here tonight. But it is the kids that we're here about. And all of you need to remember that every time you make a decision having to do with this school. And it troubles me that 5 members of this board who were elected by the people in this audience can't get along well enough to not come to a point that you're trying to recall one another. I think that you need to grow up a little bit.
Katie Carrico?
As a parent, I would love to have one of each of us sit down and actually have a conversation, because we are all guessing what the other side is thinking. And I've been sitting on both sides recently. I have been to the meet and greets, and I have been with the teachers, and I have been with the administrators, and I am hearing both sides. And you're all wonderful people. Everybody that I have interacted with, that I have talked to, I have high regards for those people. But we're not perfect people, and we are always going to be assuming the worst about the other person unless we have a conversation face-to-face with them. So, you know what I believe. As a parent, I am a conservative mother. Like the others, I don't want liberal ideologies coming into the classroom. And I'm pretty sure most of the teachers don't even have time to do that, because they're teaching them how to read and how to write and all the other things that they have to do. But as a parent, what I want to hear is what the high school principal said. To have that confirmation that no, critical race theory is not going to be taught. I want to know that those walls are being put around our kids. If we can be told those kinds of things, then we're not going to assume, what if it's coming? Because it is coming from the top down, but we want to know our kids are being protected here. And so as much as we can communicate with one another, I think we will get along better. Because there's a lot of animosity in this room. But it doesn't have to be like that. So maybe we can have another meet and greet, and maybe we can have it in a bigger place, and maybe we can all sit down. Different people, teachers, parents, community members, board members, principals, superintendents. Like, sit down and actually have a face-to-face conversation about these things. Thank you.
Thank you. Paula Burke? No comment? Okay. All right. That wraps up our public comments, and we will definitely get answers to some of the questions back to you prior to the next board meeting. So we're going to move on to the board member comment, and so we'll start. Should we do alphabetically?
Point of order. When was this added?
At the beginning of the board meeting.
No, let's just wait a second. Okay, thank you.
Okay.
So I want to jump all the way back to the beginning. Not of time. I was there, but not of time. Back to when Michelle was talking, and she talked about working under turmoil, and I get that. And I don't know if it's a time-honored tradition or if it's in the water, but what I've seen for decades now, it doesn't matter what conflict is going on, it doesn't matter what turmoil is going on, the teachers of this district, they put their nose to the grindstone and they teach the kids. And they don't lose sight of why we're here. And they get great support from our administrators and our counselors and our staff and our faculty. And they put their nose to the grindstone and they work for the kids of this district. And it's happened for 30 years and it's happening now. And Michael, I appreciate your comments and how you see that that's happening for your children as well. And a lot of this is due to our senior district leadership, but a lot of this is due to Dr. Bill Dallas. He went through the list, and sometimes you get kind of lost in the fact that it might just be words and it's just rattling off, but there are some incredible things going on. And our district is better with Bill Dallas in this district.
Okay, you guys.
Well, I didn't really have anything prepared because I didn't know this was going to come. I just want to say I'm proud of the record of standing up for our kids. I appreciate our teachers and always have. But I ran on kids first. Conservatives for kids. I am responsible for talking with our communities, my constituents, and I'm really proud of the conservative stand that I have taken, and to safeguard our kids and our parents, and even if it's not here, as some say, we need to put safeguards in place to make sure it doesn't come here, and that's what we're desperately trying to do. Thank you.
So, Sean, in regards to your recall, can we hear? Okay. I just wanted to say that I support your recall because I've had some similar concerns. So, on December 14th, I contacted the district attorney's office in regards to the two of you, stating that you have disclosed executive session meetings to the public, confidentiality. You can shake your head, do what you want. I talked to the district attorney in regards to this to see what do I do. I, as a board member, am here to protect the school district, to protect our kids, just like what everyone has said, basically. So upon talking to the DA, he told me I needed to go through a certain channel of steps. I needed to go to the local police department and to present a case to see if there is a case. Maybe there isn't, but a separate set of eyes, which is coming from our Elizabeth Police Department. And so Carrie and I went there on December 21st. We met with the police department. We gave them some information in regards to a case against the two of you for a breach of confidentiality. Lots of documentation. On January 19th, we went back as a follow-up. At this time, we decided that it was the best interest for the district to file a report against the two of you in regards to breach of confidentiality. You can say, you can shake your head, there's documentation. So this is for reasonable suspicion that a law was broken. As of today, there is an investigation going against the two of you. So, thank you very much.
I would like to, repeat what I said in our last board meeting and maybe the one prior. I think most of you know that this board, and I'll speak for myself, that I am a conservative. But we consistently have people coming forward and talking about CRT and SEL and restorative justice and all kinds of different things that are occurring in the district, or they're afraid that we're going to let it in and that we're not doing enough, and you're going to hold us accountable, and you should hold us accountable, because I don't want it in the district at all, and I don't know where you're hearing it from about board members that are supporting it, but that's got to stop, because it's rumor. I do not support that stuff at all, and I've said that in public record in prior board meetings. I think I would ask again that before you make a statement or a concern, that you do some fact checking and call me or email me. I mean, nobody, with the exception of maybe a couple of people, have sent me an email asking me a question. They just assume that what they hear is fact, or that it's true. Well, I think a lot of that is going on in Washington, D.C. right now. That's my personal opinion. That's what's happening there, and I don't want that to happen here. I want us to before we, I'm upset about it too. I don't want it to come into the district, but I don't want this conversation to happen week after week after week either, because I think people need to know that we're not supportive of it. So that's my comment.
Well, tonight was a surprise to me. This was supposed to be a nice, polite, transparent meeting. So, turns out there was another attack. And I think that the claims, I'm curious to see this documentation that you have as well, because I have not violated my affidavit of confidentiality. So I'm really curious to see what you come up with. But one thing I can tell you is, ever since I have started speaking out about SEL, ever since I have tried to engage our board members in town halls, in meet and greets to try and engage with the public, I feel like I've been under attack because you don't want to be transparent. You don't want me to speak out on behalf of our constituents. I am not saying that you want CRT, but you want to plug your ears, stick your head in the sand, and pretend that the bad guys aren't out there. And I'm not saying this to instill fear. It's a dose of reality. So, if I'm not the one that you want representing you, then by all means, tell me I'm not the one you want, and I know I'm not the one you want. But I am very, extremely disappointed in my fellow board members. I never thought that you could be too in tune and have too many beliefs and values that align with those in your community. But I won't apologize for it. Thank you.
Okay. All right, can I get a motion to approve the consent agenda, items 10.1 through 10.6?
9.0.
I'm sorry, 9.0 through 9.6.
Second.
Okay, roll call, please.
Director Bacham?
Aye.
Director Booth? Aye. Director Frumpeller?
Yes.
Director Carter?
Aye.
Director Olson?
Aye.
Okay, moving on to action items. Before I ask for a motion, Director Blackham, could you please read the resolution for counselor appreciation?
Whereas teaching the whole child involves not only the core subjects, health, physical activity, and safety, but also their mental and emotional state. And whereas school counselors ensure students learn how to regulate emotions and impulses so they can go to class ready to learn, cooperate, and collaborate. And whereas school counselors offer critical interventions when students indicate the possibility for self-harm, harm from others, and other types of distress. And whereas school counselors can connect students and families in need of external assistance to networks of service providers for physical and mental well-being. And whereas school counselors offer guidance and resources to help introduce students to educational possibilities that match their aptitudes and interests so they can pursue further education, employment, or service to their country. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the Elizabeth Board of Directors recognizes February 6 through 10, 2023 as School Counselor Appreciation Week. And be it further resolved that the Elizabeth School Board encourages all members of our community to thank our tireless school counselors for the invaluable work they do to ensure students are prepared for life and learning. Adopted this 13th day of February, 2023.
All right, thank you, Craig. Any discussion? No? All right, can I get a motion to approve the resolution for Counselor Appreciation Week?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, roll call.
Director Bacham?
Aye.
Director Booth? Aye. Director Frumpeller?
Yes.
Director Carter?
Aye.
Director Olson?
Aye.
All right. And next we'll look at the action item to adopt increased salary, certified salary schedule. Any discussion? Okay, roll call, please. Oh, I'm sorry. A motion to approve it? Yeah.
So moved.
Okay.
Second.
All right, roll call, please.
Director Bacham?
Aye.
Director Booth? Aye. Director Frumpeller?
Yes.
Director Carter?
Yes.
Director Olson?
Yes.
Okay, next we will need a motion to approve the second. Okay. Dr. Dallas is going to go through the rest of the action items.
Yes, thank you. The first set of policies we'll be able to move through very quickly. All of these policies were brought to the attention of the board at the last working session, and since then we convened a policy review committee involving district leadership, school leadership, as well as community representation. So I do want to thank everybody who was involved in that. I'm going to move very quickly. One of the recommendations that we did have was that it's difficult for those in the audience to know what we're looking at if we don't have them displayed. So I do believe we have them up over here. So as we go through, I'm going to move, again, rather quickly through the first set of policies because they are final reading, revised policies. The bulk of these are technical changes. And so policy AC, non-discrimination, equal opportunity, if you take a look at page 6, identifies that the employee an immediate family member, and it continues on to page 4. So there are no changes that were made between the last working session and this working session, and this business session regarding policy AC. Policy DJB, federal procurement. The only change here is a note at the bottom of page 1, and then again a change in wording on page 2 that best aligns to district policy to state legislation. Again, no changes here when compared to the board policy that we brought to the working session last session. Moving on to GBI, criminal history record information. You will notice that on this particular document, there is only a note that has been added, so it is up for review only. And there is a update to the revised state statute on page 5. Again, like the other policies, no changes since the working session last session. Moving on to GBEA, staff ethics, conflict of interest. You'll notice a change on page 1. This is the same as what was brought to the last session, the working session for the board, that identifies that immediate family includes a person who is related by blood, marriage, civil union, or adoption. And there was a change to the state statute on page 2. Again, no changes since the last working session. Moving on, GBJ. You'll notice a change on page 1, which is personal records also include the specific date of an educator's absence from work. There is no change to this policy since it was last discussed at the last working session. Moving on to IC-ICA. This has been brought forward. It might seem a little bit strange that you will see no red on here. This is a state-required policy review. However, previously the board did not adopt the CASB recommendations related to e-learning, and so there is no language in the policy related to e-learning. So there is nothing to actually change in the policy, only to insert the reviewed date at the top of page 1. Moving on to JFAB. You will note that the only change here is to a new legal reference at the bottom of page 1. This is also the policy for continuing enrollment of students who become non-residents. Moving on to JFABA, non-residential tuition charges. You will notice that the only change here is an updated reference, legal reference on the back of page 2. Again, no change since the last working session. JFABE-R, students in foster care. You will notice that there are no changes. This is a state legally required review of a policy and a note regarding SB 22008. Other than that, there are no changes to this policy. Moving on to JFBA, you will note that at the bottom of page 1, there's some minor language changes around admitted and approved. There's significant change on page 3, which now is required by state law that enrolling institutions can no longer ask in regards to a potential enrolling student's IEP or disability status until after that student has been accepted. Again, this is state law and is required. No changes have been made here since the working session at the last board meeting. Moving on to LBD-R, relations with district charter schools. There have been no changes to this since the last working session. You'll note that on page 1, the length of time, the window in which the district can accept or would accept charter school applications has been extended. And on page 5, you will note that there was a change from August 1st to October 1st to co-align with the changes made on page 1. Again, these changes were brought forward to the board meeting, the last working session. And the final one is, the final one for this group is LBD-E, intent to apply to become a district charter school. You'll notice there's a change from 60 days to 30 days before submitting an application, decreasing the notification to which applying charter would need to notify the district. Since the last board meeting, there was a recommended change to the email that previously stated the former superintendents. The recommended policy that was brought forward at the last working session was to instate my email as interim superintendent. However, the change that we're bringing forward to today for approval would not include my email as interim superintendent, however, would include both the emails of Mrs. Kristen Harris as administrative assistant to the board and Director Blackham as secretary of the board. So all of those policies are for final reading and revised. The only change made to any of them since the last working session is the one in which I just stated in regards to my email being removed and the email for the administrative assistant to the board and secretary of the board being included.
All right, any discussion? No? Can I get a motion for the second and final read of revised policies?
So moved.
Second.
All right, roll call, please.
Director Blackham?
Aye.
Director Booth?
Aye.
Director Frumfeller? Yes. Director Karcher?
Aye.
Director Olson?
Aye.
All right, next, 10.4.
Thank you. So the next policies are up for second revised policies. They are not being brought forward for approval. So they were brought forward at the last working session, and the board engaged in some conversation around them. Since then, these are the policies that the Policy Review Committee did review. And again, that's a lot of time, and I definitely appreciate those who are on the committee because they had some really good insight. And I'm going to actually note that there are some recommended changes for the board to consider as they discuss these beyond what you will see present. In your board packet, there are multiple iterations of these policies, and so the ones we'll be describing are the ones that I would encourage you to take a look at that are titled Policy Committee Recommendations. So we had a very thorough discussion around policy JICDE at the last working session, bully prevention and education. You'll note in this policy that the changes made by the policy committee review committee are noted in blue. And so I'm going to point out some of these as we go through. On page 1, there was a discussion around the third bullet point down, making knowingly false accusations of bullying behavior. There was a concern here that students may feel as though if they make a claim about bullying behavior that is then not proven, that they could be held accountable for disciplinary actions. So the Policy Review Committee reviewed that, and their recommendation is to add the language with malice intent at the end of it.
I'm sorry, are we on JICDE or JICDE-1?
JICDE.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
In the definition of bullying, there was some concern that cyberbullying was not, or there was some conversation at the last board meeting that cyberbullying wasn't specific enough. So the Policy Review Committee inserted language or any relational or social setting. Since then, there has been a recommendation to change that word setting to bullying. Further down, you'll note it says whenever bullying is by student or staff. That was important to part of the conversation from the board and also important to the Policy Review Committee. Okay, moving on to page 2, where there's also some considerable changes as a result of input from the board that the Policy Review Committee put into place. The false accusation piece, as aligned to the first page, includes the with malice intent language, and then also knowingly, so I'll just read the whole thing. False accusations with malice intent of bullying are those made knowingly by an individual or group of individuals with the purpose of causing harm to another individual and which are false. And this was important to the Policy Review Committee that unsubstantiated reports are not automatically considered fake accusations. And that was in reflect to the board's conversation that if somebody makes a report that can't be proven, that is not a false accusation. It's an unsubstantiated report. Moving down, the Policy Review Committee reviewed a number of recommendations from the board where there was a desire to input language to really focus in on encouraging a partnership with families. And rather than putting it in each and every one of the different numbers, the Review Committee had a recommendation to add number 1 at the very top, which currently states, engage parents for the best prevention and intervention for both schools and parents, revised policy KB, or reference policy KB, parent engagement and education. Since then, we've had a little bit of a conversation as a Policy Review Committee that might not be clear enough. And so one of the recommendations here would be to change that language. And so I'm welcome or encouraged to repeat this as many times because it's not actually up there right now. This is a more recent revision, effective even as last Friday, would be for number 1 to read, engage parents/guardians with superintendent in development of prevention and intervention comprehensive programs. Additionally, procedures to provide notification to parents shall be included in such programs related to both bullying reporting and investigation and responding when bullying has caused victims obvious emotional or physical harm. Would you like me to repeat that? It's a lot there. Okay.
That was good for me.
Okay. And again, that was a recommendation made after the Policy Review Committee met. So it could either be move forward, or the recommendation from all of you for me or direction would be to move forward with number 1 as it is, or this recommendation. And again, if you need me to repeat it, I will. Moving on to number 3, there was a conversation about what is positive school climate practices. So to create better clarity, we are recommending crossing that out and moving forward with and fosters characteristics of the graduate profile, anchoring it back to HTI.
One of the questions I had about that is, if it's referencing one of our SEL programs, what if that goes away? What if we change to a different program, or we just don't have it? Then we have that in the policy. Would it be better to just kind of reword that and not necessarily reference a different program or a specific program?
Which program is an SEL program?
Fosters characteristics of the graduate profile.
So the graduate of a prepared
like
profile
not
is an
reference
SEL
the
program?
name. Well, that's what you told me. But the graduate profile, would it be best not to reference a program as then you have to come in and change the policy if that program changes?
That would be up to the board to discuss. This is the recommendation from the Policy Review Committee.
I'm 1 of 5, so.
Can we just take it out, the name of it?
So what is the issue or problem?
We have a program named in here, but it's
graduate profile.
But it's a program which is subject to change, but we've got it written permanently into a board policy. So I'm wondering, does it need to be more generic? Versus if the policy changes, then you have to redo that. Or if the program changes, you have to redo the policy. Graduate of a profile? Or profile of graduate? Graduate profile?
Just because I was part of the graduate profile and implementing it, it is not a program. Mr. McClendon is in the room. Sorry to put you on the spot, but he was part of the community surveys and everything that went part of that, creating the graduate profile, and it's become what is Elizabeth School District graduate is.
Okay.
The competencies are on the side of all of our buildings.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know if you have anything to add, Mr. McClendon.
And if that changes, I think we can adjust it.
Okay. So the next issue I had was with number 5, and a parent came to me, a community member came to me after this was read and had a real issue with the word re-education. So I think that we need to take that word out or change it.
That word kind of caught me off guard as well.
Is there a recommended other verb or word?
Through acceptable, if you just take out.
Bullying behaviors.
Or could we go the other direction and reinforce positive behaviors? Is that an opportunity to include that?
Yeah.
A refocus toward positive behaviors.
Okay. I will bring that to the review committee. Am I okay to move on to number 6?
Yeah.
Okay. Number 6, the word across settings. The board had some conversations about what settings means, and so the Policy Review Committee recommended language change to all schools. There should be an "and" there, and student-related settings. Moving on to number 9, there was language in there. The board had asked that we go and we consider adopting the current language in the current policy. So going back to the current policy, it would be striking the language that was proposed and keeping the language to recognize and praise positive supportive behaviors of students and staff toward one another on a regular basis. Since the Policy Review Committee reviewed this, there was a recommendation to more clearly define as well as between students and staff to make sure as though there's a clearness here that it's a group. So, okay. Moving on to page 3. I think it's page 3. Mine are... Actually, yeah, I think I put this in here backwards. So moving on to number 10, there was some discussion from the board about the language teams of persons such as at the school may include. We decided that maybe the best thing to do as, again, Policy Review Committee was to make it now say such program development will include appropriate partners. Partners could be school resource officers, partners could be youth organizations, partners could be the Boy Scouts, it could be a number of components. Number 11, there was some conversation about this from the board, and the Policy Review Committee's recommendation was to add the language in their school should they choose to participate. Should parents choose, they will be given an opportunity to view the survey questions in advance. Okay. Moving on to number 13, minor change here in regards to some language to clean up the sentence. So what we would recommend being in the sentence would be a couple of additional words since the Policy Review Committee reviewed this. So now I would recommend to provide character building activities for students that include but are not limited to age appropriate fostering of characteristics of the graduate profile, as well as information on recognition and prevention of bullying behaviors. So again, there's a slight change to what you have in front of you, and that was a last-minute recommendation from the Policy Review Committee. Okay, so reporting was a bit of a conversation as well. The Policy Review Committee didn't have any immediate changes to that language, but I since then have received some additional possible language, and so I'll go ahead and read this because it's not in this iteration. And it's, reporting may be made anonymously by either the bullied student or a student or staff witness to bullying. Such anonymous reporting shall be investigated to the extent possible. However, it is understood that anonymous reporting may hinder the investigation process. All such reporting and investigation shall be kept confidential. However, only those students and staff necessary to the investigation, along with parents and guardians of affected students, shall be provided with information. Information provided will only be as much as required to effectively investigate. So again, that was a last-minute recommendation from one of the members of the Policy Review Committee, and the desire there was to clearly delineate between confidentiality and anonymous reporting. That was a long one, so please let me know. I'm happy to reread it. Okay. Moving on to at the bottom of page 3, you'll notice there was some conversation from the board about supports targets of bullying. The language that was recommended from the Policy Review Committee was supports victims of bullying in ways that avoid increasing their likelihood of continued bullying. We'd probably also recommend adding the word suffering of continued bullying. And then at the very last page, page 5, cross-referencing policy KB, parent engagement in education. So I've reviewed the entire policy for you. Right now, the major note that I have is taking a look at the word removing the word re-educate in number 5, or changing the focus to focus more on positive behaviors. Are there any other changes for the Policy Review Committee to review? This is the worst one for us to go over. It's the longest one with the most changes.
How come, just out of question, how come you're saying that these changes were made, but how come they're not in our folder?
It's mostly because once we reviewed them all, then we were intending to send the policy back out to the entire review committee. That got sent out after the board packet was updated, and then we received feedback back. And it's very good feedback from one of our community, and that came from a community member.
Gotcha.
And so had I sent them out with a little bit more time, we met last week Friday, and the board packet was due roughly Thursday. So had I sent it out with a little bit more time for that individual to review, we would have gotten those back earlier for you. But I will be happy to include all the language changes for the upcoming working session.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Moving on to policy FF, naming of facilities. So the policy review, if you look at the policy committee revision, the policy review committee looked at this and there was quite some conversation at length around this. And so the focus right now would be to first update policy FF and then to bring back to the board at the upcoming working session, because we don't bring, by our new policies, we do not bring new policies to the board at business sessions, we bring them at working sessions. So our recommendation would be to change the language here to read, the superintendent or designee shall establish procedures for naming new facilities or an area within a facility. Schools may be named for physical locations, geographical areas, desired conditions, or significant or permanent events. The board shall have the final decision on naming facilities, and then we would bring policies that are regulations for the board to consider at the upcoming working session. This language was brought together and agreed upon by the policy review committee while looking at, I want to say 3 different school districts who have an existing policy, FF naming facilities. So again, the first version would be get FF revised and then bring back to you next working session regulations to be within FF.
So it's not looking good for the Blackham water fountain?
I'm not going to weigh in on that one. Okay. Moving on to the next policy. At the last board working session, the board asked us to review policy BEDB, which was agenda. And so you'll notice on page 2, the recommendation from the board or from the policy review committee was where we have Board of Education planning to have the ability to bring up new business, and the intent there would be to help plan the next agenda. And so if somebody wanted to bring up new business, then that would provide an opportunity for the board to discuss that new business and to be able to then direct myself and the rest of district staff as to what you need us to bring back to the next policy meeting. I will point out that it doesn't necessarily codify the notion of discussion there, and so that might be something for the board. New business could be open to interpretation, and so one of the members of our policy review committee had indicated maybe we need to codify what happens during new business a little bit more, but I believe the board has had some conversation about BEDB, so I'll wait for any direction that I might receive.
I would like to have discussion. I'm okay with new business, but I would like to have discussion put in as well, but I would like to have the discussion before action items.
Discussion for action or during action items?
Discussion before action items.
And so since it's...
I think we do that, right?
Well, it's just in the order.
So you're asking
like we have public comments, consent agenda, action items, Board of Education planning.
Yeah, I agree.
I mean, it can be before action items. That way we can discuss what we're going, or we can just put it after. I mean, I suppose it doesn't matter as long as
we have it there.
I'd like to know the format for discussion items. I mean, is this something that I'm just going to show up that day and say, hey, I want to discuss this, and so we can have an open discussion amongst the board, or are we doing something to where something is submitted to you so that we all, like if you wanted to add a new policy or something like that, that we all get it ahead of time so we have time to actually look through it and analyze it before we can discuss it openly amongst all of us. I mean, I think the discussion part is excellent.
Yep.
I just would like to know, I mean, what's your thoughts? I mean, which way?
Well, we've been blocked from adding stuff to the agenda because there isn't a discussion spot.
I say, and I'm still fine with submitting items, for the draft, but we need to come up with a process for making sure everybody's wants to get on the agenda are granted, and there's not just one or two or however, and many of us are blocked from putting items on because they're not considered sufficient to be on the agenda. So I want to know how we're going to address that.
Well, I think what we've talked about is, you submit a discussion item, and you explain what it is. You've got, I want to discuss X, and this is why. When this is why is in there, then it helps the rest of the board and me as the one that puts together the agenda with Bill, and it helps me know what I need to do, what kind of homework I need to do, and how I can look at that. So it's really just explaining. I'm not asking for details, but I'm asking for why.
Well, and that makes total sense.
So, and I think we can do it in both
we
both
have
meetings.
done that, Carrie, and you have still refused to not add items.
Well, we're talking about this right now for our BEBD, and so we're talking about discussion items and how that process should work, new business, and those are basically one and the same, but they may not be. If it's a discussion, it's something you want to discuss among the board, and do it in both meetings. I'm for doing it in both meetings because your folks, are concerned about our ability to discuss issues and things with each other. Transparency. So, heck, I'm all for it.
Okay, so the direction that I think I've received is to keep that new business language in there as part of Board of Education planning, but under the agenda format for business session, between consent agenda and action item, we will add discussion items.
Yep.
Okay.
Is that? Yeah. Okay.
Okay. So with those changes that you've recommended, our policy review committee will review those, update those policies, and bring them back to you at the next meeting, which would then allow for you to accept a motion for the approval of the second reading. Again, this is not final.
All right. So, can I get a motion to approve the second read of revised policies JICDE, FF, and BEDB?
So moved.
Second.
Okay. Any discussion, further discussion on those? Okay. All right. Roll call, please.
Director Blackham?
Aye.
Director Booth?
Aye.
Director Frombeller?
Yes.
Director Carter?
Aye.
Director Olson?
Aye.
Okay, finally, in regards to JICDE E-1 and JICDE E-2, the Policy Review Committee felt as though it would probably be pertinent to first finish ironing out the language for the anchoring policy, which is JICDE. So the board or the Policy Review Committee did not actually review E1 and E2. So our recommendation right now to the board would be to bring them back to the next working session for the board to have conversation around after we have had the opportunity to better solidify the language in JICDE, because as you know, there were numerous changes to that policy, and we want to make sure is that we have that policy locked up really well before we start making recommendations on E1 and E2. So right now, our recommendation is to basically table JICDE E-1 and JICDE E-2 pending approval of the anchoring policy JICDE. It's a lot of letters.
Do I need to do the motion?
Yeah, just as a formality.
All right. So can I have a motion to approve the second read of new policies JICDE-E-1 and JICDE-E-2, just to move it on?
It just keeps them on the agenda.
Yeah.
Okay. It's just procedural.
So it's the second read, but we're going to go on to the next one, or third one.
So moved.
Okay. Any discussion?
You have a second?
Second.
All right.
Can we? I just want to touch on one thing. As I've been going through the parent surveys, I keep hearing bullying coming up, and so I think at some point we need to look into this thoroughly. I mean, obviously we're talking about the policy and the forms, but it just triggered. I've been seeing that a number of times, and would like to talk to the right people to get the good evidence and facts about it.
Okay. All right. Roll call, please.
Director Blackham?
Aye.
Director Booth?
Aye.
Director Frombeller?
Yes.
Director Carter?
Aye.
Director Olson?
Aye.
All right.
I would like to make a motion to discuss how we're going to ensure that all board members are going to be able to add items to the agenda in the future.
I've kind of been working on this. Again, as I'm going through the parent surveys, and I think there's a, if I'm not mistaken, staff survey that is going out, and I think that's a great place for us to be able to begin to look in the big picture of what agenda items will come up and should come up, and we can have a hierarchy. Which ones are the most important? Which ones, really are driving at what meets the kids in the classroom, and so that we can see the ones that are time sensitive, and we can see the ones that perhaps are, the icing on the cake, and so we can just kind of take a look at them in a big sweeping motion. And so, and I don't mind working on this. I've already started, and I'd like to in the future be able to bring that to all of us, so that we can be more proactive with agenda items and not reactive.
But your question was, how are we going to be able to bring them to the board? Yeah.
Well, I think that part of that too is understanding the for action items. That's when we're going to discuss and then vote on an issue or an item. Discussion items or new business is where we now will have the opportunity in board meetings to discuss issues and then put those on for the next board meeting in their action items as we discuss them.
But I have repeatedly asked for items to be added to the meetings, and they haven't been.
Okay, so I'm not sure that this is the right format for us to talk about your repeated requests.
But you refuse to answer my emails, so this is the only place I have to discuss, and I made a motion.
All right, do I have a second? No? Yeah, I don't know what the motion is.
Second.
Oh, we can't add it to the...
Yes, you can do a second, and then you have discussion. You didn't amend the agenda in the beginning. Doesn't matter. You can make a motion at any time. Okay.
So, are you moving to amend the agenda at this moment?
Not to amend the agenda.
No.
To
address an item.
So for discussion right now, to address an item that's right now?
Correct.
So to discuss it, we'd have to start by amending the agenda.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. I don't think that's how it works.
So I'm really confused here. There's an agenda item that you would like to talk about?
Yes.
And you're wanting to do that?
I'm making a motion to talk about an item.
So you have to amend the agenda, right? So you would have to make a motion to amend the agenda.
Okay, I make a motion to amend the agenda.
All right. What is the motion?
To discuss how we're going to ensure that every board member has a right to add things to that agenda.
You would need a second.
Yeah, second.
She already did.
You already did?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Any discussion from the group? No?
Yes, I would ask directly, point of order, that you tell me how we're going to ensure that each board member can add things to the agenda. I just recently had a conversation with Mike Peterson, who is the board president at the Douglas County School Board, and he said he has never limited somebody from adding something to the agenda, even if he totally disagrees with them. However, continually, you ignore my emails, deny me access to putting things on the agenda, and I'm asking you how we are going to ensure that it's fair that each of us can add things to the agenda.
Well, let's vote on the motion. So can I?
No, you don't vote first. You finish discussion.
Okay, well, that discussion, I'm not going to answer questions in discussion. This is another example of throwing something out at a
This is the only time I do because you refuse to answer any of my emails.
As a point of order, right now, you're voting on whether or not to amend the agenda, not any other conversations. Right now, it's whether or not to amend the agenda.
All right, so roll call, please.
No, I'm not done with the discussion. You can't do that. I'm not done with the discussion. You need a 2/3 vote to stop the discussion, and that's 4 people.
Roll call, please.
You can't roll call.
I can.
No, actually you can't. That's against policy. That's against Robert's Rule of Order.
Okay, let me look it up.
Okay.
I'm not trying to kick this down the road, but I don't feel I can make a good decision until I look at some other possibilities of how agenda items get on. I'd like to talk to some more people to find out about how that's done.
Okay, then how about this? How about we add it to the next agenda to discuss?
How about we put it in discussions for next agenda?
That's fine by me.
Yeah. Okay.
Discuss that. So
That would help me get my head around this.
Yeah, me too.
Okay, so
wait, is that okay with you that we
Yeah.
put it in
Yes, it
discussion
is.
for next time?
Yes.
So then you need to withdraw your motion.
Thank you.
You need to.
You have a motion on the floor, which it needs to be voted on. So either you need to put it to a vote or the motion needs to be withdrawn.
I can withdraw this motion and instead motion to ask for it to be added to the next agenda.
Okay, that's good. All right. Roll call, please.
No,
Well, we're done.
Yeah.
She withdrew.
We're done.
Right?
Okay.
It doesn't require a motion to add it to the next
All
agenda.
right. So just one more thing left. Next board meeting is February 27th, working session. Everybody available? Planning to attend?
Yes.
All right. Go ahead.
Just point of clarification, we are experiencing a scheduling conflict here. There's going to be a fantastic performance coming up here at the middle school, and so we will not have the ability to utilize the auditorium. We have been working diligently and continue to run into some technical problems around live streaming. Apparently it likes to work in one building but not the other building. So our goal is to continue to perfect live streaming, and we will, at this point in time, plan on the working session in the boardroom. We are confined to some specific constraints around capacity there, so we will also at the same time be looking for another location. So I would just encourage people to pay close attention if they plan to attend in person as to the location, because we are still working on that, but we do hope to have worked out those final technical glitches when it comes to the live streaming. The audio and video will be up on the board, up on the website from the recording today, but we experienced more technical difficulties on live streaming in real time. So again, just please pay close attention to the location of that next working session.
Okay, we do not have executive session, so I adjourn this meeting.
We're skipping the board planning session.
Okay, all right. Yeah.
So we've got our next meeting. What I want to do is I want to add my parental rights resolution as an agenda item at the next meeting.
Okay.
And I was also hoping that tonight I asked if we could get an update for the superintendent search. And I heard back from the search firm saying we have one candidate that's not comfortable with her name being mentioned recently. I don't understand why we have to screen the rest of them before we mention them, the others as finalists.
Well, the idea is to screen them and then go forward right after that.
Didn't we screen them in our last meeting?
Well, yeah, we did,
So
but
why
there
are
were
we holding back?
some questions that were unanswered for one in particular was Craig's, and question about academic qualifications.
You can ask that during
those kind of
interviews.
things.
You can
That's
ask that.
inappropriate.
We're holding up the process even more. We should be able
We've
to
waited
announce
8 months to get this
to
going.
our
Please do not
constituents.
drag your feet.
This is not on the agenda.
No. So,
It is, we're discussing.
the next meeting.
So, the superintendent search, we are going to proceed with on February 16th, interviewing or screening those 3 remaining board candidates. That we're not going to announce names yet. We have one that basically cannot disclose their name at this point. So,
I would really encourage.
Yeah. Okay, to end it. Yeah. All right. Okay, so I adjourn. It is 8:35, and
Hold on. I think Rhonda's point about the parental rights, can that be a discussion item so that we can bring in some multiple examples and compile it? And quite honestly, I'd love to have parents part of that conversation. And
Well, maybe some will come back next week and express what they want, but that doesn't keep us from showing our support for parental rights. We don't need, just like the lawyers, we don't need 3. We can look at what I put forward and pick out of it what we like and talk about what we don't like.
Okay, and that's fine, but if you present it as an agenda item and we want more parents involved and we vote no against it, you're trying to make somebody out to be against parental rights.
No.
Yeah, that happens. It happens. I've seen it happen. People stood up and said that people have said, I don't support parents, that I support CRT, when those things never happen. And so I don't want a vote to be taken to be misconstrued.
Is there something you don't like on it, on the
No,
resolution?
That's the whole point of discussion.
I think
What I have heard is that there will be a discussion item on adding items to the agenda at the next board meeting, and that there will be a discussion item around the parental rights resolution. But they are discussion items, is what I heard.
That's correct.
Is that?
That's fine.
All right. Okay, it is 8:37, and I adjourn this meeting.